My name's Colin. This is my channel, the A or my channel. I am from Bath, and once again I am representing my hometown with my vintage rugby shirt. But you currently find me in Leeds, although you'll have to take my word for that because I am currently in the tiniest hotel room I have ever been in. The cheapest option for my trip to Leeds was an easy hotel, as in easy jet, and I saved a few quid by booking a room with no windows. And this is tiny. I mean, there's barely room for the bed. There's no desk in this room, so I'm having to use my selfie stick. And yeah, it's been a long day. It started this morning when we got a text from the pharmacist saying that my mother's prescriptions were ready. So I went down there just before I set out, delaying my departure from home. And then they weren't actually there, which annoyed me. So I was late leaving Bath, which meant I didn't have time to record anything in Bath, which I was planning to. Didn't have any time to record in Bristol, where I got the coach up to Leeds. And then the coach was late enough into Leeds that I had to check into the hotel and then go up to the View cinema, which thankfully it's the same path and he was on the way. But yeah, I should have had enough time to record in Leeds, but I just had to make a mad dash to the cinema to watch the first of 7 films I'm watching over the next 3 days. I probably should explain, maybe it's obvious of these videos that I've been doing. My criteria for what I watch at these film festivals, it's mainly stuff that is going to show up at the Oscars or might show up at the Oscars. So it's mainstream films, but I only get festival tickets for them if they're way off into the future. So for the Bath Film Festival in October, I only bought tickets for films that were in December or January, far enough on into the future that it's worth getting a head start on it. For instance, Springsteen Delivered Me From Nowhere played in the first few days of the Bath Film Festival, but by the end of the festival it was already on general release, so I just watched it on general release. And the other thing is films that have been submitted to the International Feature Oscar category, and also animated features is always worth checking out. And if they fit into the schedule, it's worth doing feature documentaries as well. So in this particular trip to Leeds, I have 4 films which have been submitted to the International Feature Oscar race, 3 animated features, all of which were in competition at the NLC Animation Festival, which is sort of like the biggest animation specific film festival in the world. But since one of the films qualifies in both of those categories, the 7th film I watched is one that I used. There was sort of like one of those deals where you buy 6 tickets and get a significant amount of money off. But it was only later that I realised I should have done something different. So yes, one extra random film that I'm watching here. And that also annoying me is that I could have, in that gap, watched Lynn Ramsey's film Die My Love, which is on general release at the moment, but I can't make that fit anymore. So yeah, 7 films. Tonight I've already watched the Spanish Oscar submission Sirât. Tomorrow I am watching the animated film CHAO, the animated film which Latvia has submitted to the Oscars, Dog of God. Ducournau's new film Alpha, which is the random one I got to use up my last cheap ticket. And the last film tomorrow night is the Colombian Oscar submission, A Poet. And then on Sunday, I'm going out to the fringes of Leeds, to the Hyde Park area. Apparently I don't know Leeds that well. But I'm going up to the Hyde Park Picture House, where I'll be watching the animated film written and directed by Kid Koala, Space Cadet, and that following the Tunisian Oscar submission, The Voice of Hind Rajab, which I've been really interested in since I saw it on the lineup of the Venice Film Festival. So those are the 7 films I'm watching over the next 3 days. And as I said, I just haven't had time to record anything so far today. So I've come back here, finally had something to eat, because I just didn't have time for that either. And now it's time to talk about Sirât, which is the Spanish submission to the Oscars this year, and was always likely to be the Spanish submission to the Oscars this year, since this film shared the jury prize at Cannes with the German film Sound of Falling. So basically shared 3rd place at the Cannes Film Festival. And there were certain people who absolutely loved this film coming out of Cannes, so it was always likely to be the Spanish Oscar submission. But it follows a man and his young son, Spanish man and his young son, who travel to Morocco in search of their sister/daughter, who has gone on essentially the hippie trail in Northern Africa, just going to rave after rave after rave in the deserts of Morocco. And it's been 5 months, they haven't heard from her, so the father, Sergio Lopez, wants to find her, and his son, and their dog, seems a little excessive to take the kid and the dog, but anyway, they're in search of this missing. Is she missing? Does she even want to be found? Would she consider herself missing? That's part of it. This somewhat controlling father has gone on this madcap quest to Northern Africa, and is that even the right thing to do? And as is the case with all sort of road movies, it's not so much the destination, it's the journey you go on. And that is very much the case here in Sirât. In a lot of ways, I think this is a transcendent journey. And I mean that in more ways than one. On one level, we have the trance music, which these people are dancing to in the desert. And then there's certainly a metaphysical bent. These are sort of like latter-day hippies, essentially, just going in their vans around North Africa, and the spiritual aspect of it. And the title of the film, Sirât, that comes from Islamic mythology. It's the razor-thin bridge that souls need to travel across to get to paradise over hell. So even the title, it's sort of like the border between heaven and hell, the border between life and death, and that definitely comes into this. And it certainly has this metaphysical, this spiritual aspect to it, because this sort of like somewhat conservative, somewhat straight-laced Spanish father is suddenly in consort with a bunch of hippies, a bunch of drug-taking hippies. And how does he deal with that? How does he cope with that? Does he cope with that? And should he have brought his son and his dog along with him? Because there does reach a point during the course of this film where the party definitively comes to an end. It's not fun anymore. And this keeps on getting built up and built up and built up. I mean, more and more bad shit starts happening to this group of people, and some surprisingly dark stuff happens. I was not expecting some of the stuff in this film. I mean, it's sort of like genuinely tragic stuff in here, and not least of which, in the background of this film, it's very possible the world is coming to an end. I mean, the film opens, as you might expect, in one of these raves. I mean the soundtrack of this, I mean, it's be fascinating to see if this is eligible for best score at the Oscars, but because it's sort of like very, very, it's like trance, techno music, and there's loads of these people dancing to it, loads of these hippies dancing to it. And it is, a transcendent experience, metaphysical experience. But sooner or later, the Moroccan army just shows up and says, right, we're rounding everybody up, all ye EU citizens, we need to get you out of this. This is no longer a safe space. And initially you're thinking, oh, it's just the Moroccan government clamping down on these mostly foreign hippies. But then you start hearing radio reports, and there's some actual shit going down. There's a possibility, even a strong possibility, that World War III has actually started in the background of this film, and that's really not part of the narrative, because it's much more of a metaphysical journey, and that's kind of the issue I have with this film. I understand. I mean, as I said, I mean, it's an old saw. It's an old saying that road movies are not about the destination, they're about the journey. But I kind of like a little bit of destination. I mean, the place that this film ends up, I think that director Oliver Lachey thinks it's more profound than I personally found it. I mean, and I fully expect, and I know, I mean, some of the people I watch online, some people have loved this film. It's sort of like their favourite film of the year and stuff like that. They found a profundity in this film, Sirât, that I just didn't see. I mean, I get it. I think there is some interesting stuff going on here. Fascinating ideas. I mean, the idea of this in between place. Heaven, hell, life, death, family, and friends. I mean, found family. There is stuff going on here. I just don't think it's as revelatory. I don't think it's as transcendent as Oliver Lachey intended it to be, and many people have found it. I mean, I fully understand that many people will find this profound, will have a transcendent experience watching this. I didn't. I think it was interesting. It's well shot. The music's great. It's certainly got some fascinating stuff in it. I just ultimately don't think Sirât amounts to all that much. It's going to be interesting to see how this does in the International Feature Oscar race. I mean, is this going to end up on the 15 film long list? Maybe it won't. I mean, it's pretty high profile. I mean, it's done a lot of the festival circuit. I mean, as it turns out, I could have saved myself a night in a hotel, because this is playing at the French Film Festival. I got the World Show Cinema in Bristol next month, as is the Voice of Hind Rajab, actually. I know that's playing at Palestine, but anyway. It's good. Don't think it's great. I mean, it didn't move me. It didn't wow me as it clearly has other people. So yeah, for me, I think Sirât is good, not great. And for me, on my personal rating scale of yay, nay, or meh, this is the yay, nay, or meh channel, I think Sirât ends up as a meh. I think it's got some good stuff in it, but me personally, didn't find anything truly profound in it. But yeah, I think it is basically still worth watching. So yeah, Sirât is basically a man. Right, I better get some sleep because I've been up all day. I watched Thursday Night Football last night, which was a bad game between the Broncos and the Raiders. 10-7, and yeah, not a good game. But yeah, I was up late watching that. Spent 7 hours on a bus/coach. Yeah, bus from Bath to Bristol and then coach up here to Leeds. And I've got a very early start tomorrow. I think my first film tomorrow is about 10:30, I think. Because it's Saturday morning, so put the cartoons on. And as far as I know, CHAO is a family-friendly animation from Japan. So yeah, I've got an early start tomorrow, so let's leave it there, and I will see you with the first of 4 films tomorrow. Oh, and I should also have time to try and find something interesting and historical to talk about in Leeds. I mean, I said I don't know it really well. I mean, I used to visit here occasionally because I went to university in Huddersfield, which is not too far from here. So I did visit Leeds on occasion when I was at university, and I came here last year as well. I actually made it, quotes from me, made it into the official highlight film of last year's Leeds International Film Festival, which I found out yesterday. I mean, I did do some recording. I saw somebody in the view in the lights, interviewing people and videoing people, and I said, "Are you just accepting randoms?" I said, "Well, I've got a story for you. I've just spent 7 hours in a coach." So yeah, she interviewed me, and 2 clips from me ended up in the official highlight reel of last year's festival. I am here at the Leeds International Film Festival, and I spent 7 hours on a coach to get here today. It's my happy place. A film festival is my happy place. And yeah, I love coming to the Leeds International Film Festival. So yeah, that was cool. Found that out yesterday. But yes, that's beside the point. Right, so tomorrow morning is the Japanese anime CHAO, first of 4 films on the Saturday, and I will see you then. Right, so it is Saturday morning. It's far too early to be up really, but here is visual proof, if proof were needed, that I'm actually in Leeds. That is Leeds Town Hall. The Victorians didn't do anything by halves, did they? But yeah, apparently all the functions of City Hall have moved elsewhere, so basically that's just concert venue and things like that nowadays. And that that's a Henry Moore statue outside the Leeds Gallery and Art and Library. Yeah, Henry Moore, one of Britain's greatest sculptors, was a Yorkshireman and proud of it. And yeah, there is the Henry Moore Institute promoting art. And yeah, just behind him there, behind that Radisson Hotel, is the Light, where the View Cinema is. So yeah, here I am in Leeds. It's the first, well, it's the only full day I've got here in Leeds with 4 films. The first 2 of which are animated films, and they're so close together I'll probably have to record about them both at the same time. First we have the Japanese animated film CHAO, and then the Latvian rotoscoped animation Dog of God. And yeah, I didn't know this when I bought the ticket, but apparently there's a Q&A with that one, with the 2 directors. So that has the potential to be pretty cool. So yes, the next time I see you, it will probably be with 2 reviews of the first 2 films I've seen on this Saturday. Right, so I am currently stood at the back door of the light, and up there on the upper floors is where the View Cinema is, where I've just come out of 2 films. And going the other way, that is the Roman Catholic Cathedral of St Anne's. Yeah, that is Leeds Roman Catholic Cathedral. And yeah, there wasn't a Catholic cathedral in Leeds until the middle of the 19th century. But then with the influx of Irish migrants, amongst other things, there was a need for it. And that particular building, they had to shift it from down that road up a little bit. So that was started in 1901 and consecrated in 1924. So that's a pretty modern cathedral. But anyway, that is the Roman Catholic Cathedral of Leeds. It's right next door to this entertainment complex which I've just come out of. So yes, I have seen 2 films since the last time I recorded, both animated. The first one was CHAO or CHAO. It was used both ways in the dialogue. I mean, in the actual film it was CHAO, but the song over the end credit was CHAO. So who the hell knows? Let's go with CHAO. So CHAO is basically the Little Mermaid. I mean, Hans Christian Andersen's original Little Mermaid, in that it's a little bit more well, is it tragic? I don't suppose it really is. I mean, what it is a bit of a farce, actually. I mean, it's got this interesting world where humans and mere people live side by side in basic, what seems like, harmony. And over the course of this film, we have a journalist who sees, oh, hang on a minute, I recognise that guy. That's the guy who married the Mer princess, and he chases after him and gets the story. And we get flashbacks to the story of how this human man and this Mer princess married and sort of like fixed everything, basically. But it's not as simple as that, and that's kind of the interesting thing, because what we have here is a relationship which is somewhat unbalanced, in so much as this Mer princess CHAO is very, very into this. As soon as she meets this human guy, I want to go to the human world, I want to marry this guy instantly. And the guy's not really into it, but his boss sees financial opportunities, and he himself, this human guy Stefan, yeah, I mean, it was spelt Stephen but it's pronounced Stefan. Anyway, Stefan, he is an engineer, and he has this idea for an air jet as a replacement for a screw on the back of boats, and he works for a boat company. And these big screws are hurting, even killing mer people. So in order to help everybody, why don't we use these air jets instead? Because it costs too much money. But oh, now you want to marry the Mer Princess, and the Mer King is actually talking to us. Yes, let's do this. And hey, by the way, you're also promoted. So I mean, it benefits him, but he's not really into it. And that's kind of the crux of this film, is the fact that CHAO is very, very into this, but she doesn't really understand the human world. She doesn't know how things work, and crucially, Stefan isn't really teaching her how things work, because he just doesn't want to deal with this at all. So this isolated mere person has sort of like one friend who lives in the same building, one female friend who lives in the same building, and that's basically it. And it's To be honest, throughout the majority of this film, I think Stefan is a bit of a dick. He is not talking to his wife. I mean, yes, he didn't want this, he's not into it, but at least talk to her. I mean, a lot of the problems would have been solved, or at least would have been helped quicker if they just talked to each other. It's one of those situations, one of those films. It's pretty good. I mean, the animation style, I think that's the two things that you always need to concern yourself with animated films is the story and the style, the visuals. And the animation style, it is really good. I mean, it's kind of rough. I mean, it's not very polished, it's not very perfect. It's entirely hand-drawn, and over the end credits you prove that by having the hand-drawn animatics as the end credits are going, because the director was very, very concerned to show this is hand-drawn, this is not computer generated, so he put that over the end credits. But yeah, it's very rough around the edges, it's not perfect, it's not polished, it's very easily deformed, it doesn't have rigid, structured models. I mean, the way that a lot of animation, I mean, for want of a better term, Disney-style animations, you have to be exactly on model all the time, and it starts becoming a little bit samey. But this isn't. It's very rough around the edges. It feels hand-drawn, it feels handmade. It actually reminded me a lot of the work of one of my favourite animation directors, Masaaki Yuasa, who did Night's a Short Walk on Girl, and particularly Ride Your Wave. I think Ride Your Wave is one of the best animated films of the last 20 years. It proves that animation is not a kids thing. I mean, Ride Your Wave is a film about grief, and it's a really, really good film about grief. So yeah, I strongly recommend Ride Your Wave by Masaaki Yuasa.
またこうやってお茶したり、またどっか他のところに行ったり。僕らは立ち尽くすだけ。ずっと助けるよ、必ず。
ただいま手が離せないか、電波の届かない場所におります。
君が眺めている？港がいた。何言ってんの？君が眺めている。
ずっとひな子のこと助けるって約束したろ？ずっと水中に潜っていたら波に乗ることはできないよ。
こんなこと言いたくないけど先輩はもういないんです。ひなこさん、
どこに向かって泳いでいったらいいかわかんない。
俺の願いはひな子が自分の波に乗れること。
And that's the style and the type of film that this film CHAO is. And yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I can't say it was revelatory, I can't say it stood out in any particular way. I think it works. I mean, this did win one of the major awards at the Annecy Animation Festival. It won the jury prize, which is essentially the second prize for the Annecy Animation Festival, and I kind of wonder why. I mean, I think this is good, it's entertaining and everything, but I don't see it as outstanding in any way. I mean, I strongly recommend watching it. I mean, and I did need to tick it off because of that Annecy award. It's probably going to be at least a minor contender for the animation feature Oscar. So I watched it, but yeah, I mean, it's good, it's entertaining. I mean, I love the look of it, the style of it, but on my scale of yay, nay or meh, it basically ends up being a solid, pretty high meh. And then the second film, obviously exactly the same season, exactly the same screen, was the Latvian animated film Dog of God, which has been submitted by Latvia to the International Feature Oscar race the year after Flow was submitted by Latvia and got nominated for animated feature. Oh, and yeah, there's another Latvian. Latvia has some really good animators, because there was Rocks in My Pockets. What was the name of that woman who did Rocks in My Pockets? I can't remember, I should have looked it up already, but yeah, Rocks in My Pockets is another Latvian animation which is excellent. I mean, a bit depressing because it's about suicide, but yeah, or depression and suicidal ideation.
In this crazy world, how do you stay sane? This is a story about 5 women of my family and our quest for sanity. My grandmother Anna, a lively spirit, then a mother of 8. And my cousins, Miranda, an aspiring artist, Linda, an ambitious student, Irbe, a quiet music teacher, and me. I look at my family and ask, can I escape my destiny? The road to sanity is a wild ride. Crazy world, do you heal a mind? Rocks in My Pockets, a funny film about depression.
Yeah, Rocks in My Pockets is also from Latvia and also excellent. So yeah, Latvia is a tiny country with a really, really good track record of animation, so weird. But anyway, this one is Dog of God, which is a rotoscoped animation, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I saw the trailer for this. I mean, because I once it was on the submission list for the International Feature Oscar, and I saw it on the programme for the Leeds Film Festival. So I watched the trailer, and yeah, they really, really emphasised the sexual content in this film. I was mildly concerned that this would end up being a rotoscoped animation, a little bit like a Spine of Night, which was about 5 years ago, I think, which was another rotoscoped animation. Lots of nudity, lots of sex, a lot of drug taking. Didn't especially like Spine of Night, and the trailer for Dog of God made it look like that kind of film. I mean, they really emphasised the sex, really emphasised the nudity, really emphasised the gore. And yes, there is that in this film. I mean, towards the end, there's essentially an orgy in this film, Dog of God. But that's really not what this film is about. And the nudity and the sexual content is there, but it's not. That's not what the film's about. Even though, I mean, there was a Q&A with the directors, the Aberley brothers, who were fascinating, and they had this idea about the very specific Livonian werewolves. I mean, Livonia is the region which is Latvia, Estonia, parts of Poland, in the Middle Ages. I mean, this is the late 17th century, and there's a witch trial, and during the course of this witch trial, a werewolf shows up, but it's a very specific Livonian type of werewolf. And apparently the Aberley brothers heard about this Latvian werewolf from a Douglas Adams book, which seems a little bit strange, but that's apparently what happened. And there is sort of like the best documented werewolf trial in history is this Livonian court case in the late 17th century. But I mean, that was only the starting point. That's not really what this film is about. I mean, here we have a story of religious repression. I mean, the main character, the main villain of this is the local priest, and he is very concerned about, you know, the sanctity of everybody. I mean, everybody needs to be pure. Everybody needs to be sexually repressed. You don't need to go to the witchcraft of the local barmaid. So once his holy relic, which is a bit of straw, which is supposedly from Jesus' manger, once that goes missing, he instantly says, oh right, the barmaid's a witch, she obviously stole this holy relic, let's put her on trial. And towards the end of the film, he is repeatedly asked, why is this piece of straw more important than a human life? And I think that's very, very telling. I mean, there's lots of paganism in this, there's lots of shamanism in this, because essentially what happens, I mean, this werewolf guy shows up, and, you know, 3 times a year he takes, you know, fly agaric mushrooms and travels to the underworld and deals with the devil, and if he is successful in this mission, there will be good harvests for the next year. So these werewolves are kind of fertility totems, and the very, very opening scene of this is this werewolf guy going to the underworld and castrating the devil, and the devil's balls become a remarkably important part of this film towards the end. Yeah, and like I said, there's kind of an orgy as well. So yeah, I mean, this is very, very adult, but it's not reveling in that. That's not what it's about. For me, I think what this is about is repression, religious repression, sexual oppression. Everybody's got a kink. I mean, the local baron has a feeder kink and is constantly giving food to his voluptuous wife, which leads to a reference to Monty Python. I mean, they actually used this line in this Latvian animation.
And finally, monsieur, a waffle thin mint.
And during the Q&A, the Abley brothers did say that they are fans of Monty Python specifically. So yeah, that was an English crowd responded very well to that particular moment. But yeah, I mean, but that all comes about because of the feeder king. This baron is constantly feeding his Rubenesque wife. And other people have pain kinks, other people have humiliation kinks. Everybody's got a kink, but they're not allowed to express it because the Bible says you can't. I mean, that's essentially what it comes down to. So, yeah, it's kind of fascinating, and having this this repression of the pagan, of the sexual, of the female. I mean, because, you know, the woman, the barmaid, is the focus of ire, but she is also trying to help people. I mean, she knows the remedies, she knows things. I mean, there's certain things you can't help. I mean, there's one woman in the village who seems to have the bubonic plague, and nothing's going to help that, unfortunately. So, I mean, once, you know, the village turns, once the mob forms, that's kind of it. That's kind of your lot. And yeah, having this very conservative, very repressive environment and fighting against that in whatever way you can. I mean, I actually rather like this. It has got a chance of getting into the international feature Oscar race. I'll be astonished if it ended up on the shortlist. I think technically, because it has been submitted to the international feature Oscar race, it will also be eligible for the animated feature Oscar race, even if it isn't on the official release list. And even if it is on the official release list, I don't anticipate this getting very far because it is very, very adult and there's basically an orgy. But yeah, I really like this. I think it's not just about the sex and the gore and the werewolves. It has, you know, very important things. I mean, yes, we've seen similar types of things before, but it does say them, and it says them in interesting ways. So yeah, I think a film about repression and fighting against it, done in this fascinating rotoscoped animated style, it's really good. So yeah, I liked Dog of God, and if you have the opportunity to see it, which God knows when and if it's going to be available in the UK, I wonder if this will actually end up on Shudder. It feels like the kind of thing that Shudder might buy. But however you end up finding it, I do recommend Dog of God, and for me it was a yay. Right, so now I've got a little bit of time, and the next film on the slate after I've gone and had some food is Julia Ducournau's new film Alpha, which I believe is a metaphor for AIDS, and since the title of the film is Alpha, I think that this is going to be the second werewolf film in a row, even though I don't think that's been officially confirmed in the pre-publicity. But yeah, I shouldn't have booked this film, but anyway, I'll talk about that later after I've gone and had some food, and yes, I will see you after Alpha. Right, so I'm now sat outside the Radisson Hotel there, and that is the cathedral again from a different angle, and the Henry Moore Institute is just in front of me. Come out of the film Alpha by Julia Ducournau, and this was my random film. They had this deal that they get 6 tickets at a reduced rate, and this was the few days that the most stuff that I wanted was on, and I had a ticket to use. So I chose this, despite the fact it's on general release in a couple of weeks, to the extent that there's actually a BBFC certificate at the front of this film. So, I mean, normally I wouldn't have bothered seeing this at a film festival, and...
What's it? Oh.
Yep, this is the centre of Leeds on Saturday night. So, yes, I mean, this was the film that I chose to use my 6th ticket on. But then, I mean, sort of my sense of needing to fill every single space. I mean, I started looking again at the lineups and noticed that tomorrow there was a gap. I mean, immediately before the ticket I'd already bought to the Voice of Hind Rajab for this film, Space Cadet, which, yes, it's probably not going to be eligible for the animated feature Oscar. It basically seems to be a visual album by Kid Koala, but it's probably got more chance of being in the Oscars than Alpha does. Despite the fact, I actually kind of liked Alpha. But I still probably wouldn't have watched it at the festival. I mean, if I hadn't seen this, I could have squeezed in a screening of Die My Love, which I think at the moment is high priority because I'm going to be so busy next week because I'm going to Manchester on Wednesday. But anyway, yeah, I quite liked Alpha. I really like Julia Ducournau's first film, Raw. I think that's an unusual and striking horror film. Titan was strange. I mean, how does a very strange, very abstract film about a woman fucking a car win the Palme d'Or? How did that happen? And I didn't particularly like Titan. So, I mean, and the reviews coming out of Cannes for this film, Alpha, weren't that great. And yes, it is 100% a metaphor for AIDS and the AIDS crisis. But it's not, as I thought it was, about werewolves. It turns out that the name of the main character, the girl in the film, is Alpha. That it's her name, not Alpha Dog, Alpha Wolf, whatever. So not werewolves. But it's not AIDS either. And I think that's the main issue I have with Alpha, is the fact that the imagery and the ideas of this film are clearly inspired by the AIDS epidemic, and apparently Julia Ducournau's family had a brush with AIDS in the 80s, and that inspired this film. So I mean, the imagery is all about AIDS. I mean, the panic, the terror, the people not wanting to touch you, shunning the person who might be infected, and she almost certainly isn't. Or it's unlikely that she is, but she's shunned. I mean, you are contaminated, you are infected, you are not part of this. We need to shun you. The hospital wards filling up with patients. The fact that it seems to affect the homosexual community. Or at least there is, a major supporting character seems to be gay and his partner seems to be infected. So there's that. And there's this tattoo. I mean, I'm really not sure how this happens. I mean, do you just randomly tattoo people at a party? I've never come across that. Certainly to none of the parties that I ever went to. But the idea of the possibly dirty needle at this tattoo, and Alpha was pretty drunk at the time, so how much consent was involved when you were tattooed with an alpha, a very crude alpha, on her arm. Another factor is, out of the blue, Alpha's junkie uncle, played by the awesome Tahar Rahim, shows up. And the opening scene of the film is a flashback where the young Alpha, 5-year-old Alpha, is drawing constellations between the track marks on her uncle's arm, and it kind of looks like the Big Dipper, and I mean, that's kind of cute and kind of disturbing at the same time. I mean, a 5-year-old playing with her uncle, but they're track marks. So I mean, the junkie uncle suddenly shows up out of the blue when Alpha is 13, and this is another factor which her mother is absolutely panicked by this. Now, her mother, played by the awesome actress Golshifteh Farahani, probably not a name you know, but she's brilliant. Golshifteh Farahani plays the mother, and she's a doctor, and even though she's a doctor, and even though it looks okay, she is absolutely convinced that her 13-year-old daughter has been infected by this virus, and starts behaving accordingly, starts locking her away and taking her out of school and all that kind of stuff. I mean, so even a mother and a doctor is panicked about this. And the imagery and the iconography of the AIDS crisis is absolutely here. And there's also a couple of scenes about mass panic and an overwhelmed medical staff, which kind of reminded me of COVID as well. I think that this is also a post-COVID film that is very, very much about AIDS, even though this is not about AIDS. And I don't really know why it isn't about AIDS. With or without the AIDS, I mean, whatever virus it turns out to be, there would be fantastical elements in this film. I mean, as is Julia Ducournau's bent. I mean, raw, the obsessive cannibalism, Titan, fucking a car and maybe turning into a car. So I mean, that's what Julia Ducournau does. So there are sort of like extreme fantastical elements, and that would be the case with or without AIDS, whatever the virus turned out to be. So the fact it is not AIDS and it is somewhat fantastical does build into the atmosphere of this film. But I don't really know what the benefit of not having it be AIDS is, other than having this building on the fantastical. And the one thing that it does add to the film, if it wasn't AIDS, is the fact that it is something where instantly, visually, you know if somebody is infected. You see somebody and you know they're infected. That's the only real benefit I see of it not being AIDS. But I mean, that's the iconography. It's AIDS. It's about the AIDS crisis. And I mean, it's powerfully done. But a large part of me is saying, just make it AIDS. So yeah, it's brilliantly acted. I mean, like I said, Tahar Rahim and Golshifteh Farhani, that's a pair of really, really good actors. The Alfred, played by Melissa Barros, also excellent. I think the panic and the systemic exclusion of this girl who might be infected, I mean, is very good at the social aspects of this. So yeah, all in all, I think this is a decent enough film. I mean, it's not going to get into the Oscars because France didn't submit this. It didn't even shortlist this for the International Feature Oscar race. So there's that. But yeah, I think Alpha is a decent enough film. So yes, on my scale of yay, nay or meh, I think this is a high meh. I mean, I don't think it stands out enough to give it a yay, but it's certainly worth a meh. I think it's a good film, a decent film, a film with something to say, a film with some striking imagery in it. But just make it AIDS. If it's about AIDS and it's clearly about AIDS, just make it AIDS. So yeah, a meh for the film Alpha. Right, now I've got a little bit of time to kill, and my last film for tonight is going to be the Colombian Oscar submission, A Poet, which I'm not particularly looking forward to, but it is a genuine contender because it did do well at Cannes. And given that it is already late, and it'll be very late by the time I actually get out, I'm probably going to record that back in my tiny cell of a hotel room and avoid the late night drive. So yes, I'll probably see you next in my tiny hotel room reviewing A Poet. Right, so it's the end of day 2 of my trip to the Leeds International Film Festival, although technically it's the start of morning 3 because it's just past midnight. Yeah, as I said earlier, I thought it would be a good plan to wait until I got back to the hotel room to record about my final film, and there were a lot of people on the streets of central Leeds on this Saturday night in various stages of intoxication. So yes, I came home, but because Match of the Day was delayed, I think it was because of the Festival of Remembrance they do at the Royal Albert Hall every year. I think that was on tonight. They do that every Remembrance weekend. So I think because of that, Match of the Day was delayed. So I actually got to watch Match of the Day. So yes, came home, came to the hotel, had something to eat, and I've just finished watching Match of the Day. So yes, several hours ago now, I watched the Colombian International Oscar submission, A Poet. And this is a film I honestly really wasn't looking forward to. I mean, it was on my list to watch because it was on the list of submissions to the international Oscar race. So I knew I had to watch it at some point, but I wasn't looking forward to it because despite the fact it did well at Cannes, I think it was the jury prize in the Un Certain Regard section of Cannes, so a decent award at Cannes, and people were really talking about it. But everything they were saying about this film, A Poet, was that it was very much the kind of awkward, cringe humour of things like The Office or Curb Your Enthusiasm or things like that. And that is really not my taste in comedy at all. I've never watched The Office, never watched Curb Your Enthusiasm. That kind of awkward humour just does absolutely nothing for me. So I wasn't really looking forward to this film, A Poet. So I'm pleasantly surprised to say that I actually quite liked it. Yes, it does have a bit of that awkwardness. I mean, because this main character in A Poet is frankly a bit of a dickhead. He's a drunk, probably, you could define him as an alcoholic. He's a blowhard. He has these weighty ideas about what poetry is and what art is, and he can't lower himself to be a high school teacher now. I mean, I'm a poet, but yeah, your last book was in 1992, and yeah, it was moderately successful, but you haven't been a poet for a hell of a long time, and now you're just pissing everybody off with how loud and I know what art is, I know what poetry is. He's a dickhead. But that's only the first section of the film. And then what happens is a chain of events which made this film feel very, very much like the film The Kindergarten Teacher, which is one of those rare cases where I think the American remake starring Maggie Gyllenhaal and directed by Sarah Colangelo, I think it was, the American remake, I think, was actually better than the Israeli original. I think there were little tweaks that Sarah Colangelo made in the American remake, which made it work better. I mean, in that film, The Kindergarten Teacher, Maggie Gyllenhaal is a kindergarten teacher who is also an amateur poet, and this 5-year-old kid in her class starts reciting these poems. You think, oh, yeah, these just words are made up. And she becomes convinced that this kid is a genius and she must do everything she can to nurture this kid. And it goes really, really bad.
I think we have a young Mozart. Jimmy, when you have a poem in your head, will you come to me? I've asked Jimmy to recite a few of his poems at a poetry reading.
Forget it. Thursday he has baseball practice with his friend.
He's gifted, Mr. Roy.
Anything simple at this age.
Jimmy, hi, it's Lisa.
Why are you calling me?
Mozart was nurtured by kings and queens.
It's almost like a sign from God. Why are you upset?
I loved it. Just wish there was a little more curiosity, vibrancy, intellectualism in this house.
If you want to go back to college and get your stupid degree, then you can go ahead. You worked your ass off, and look where you are.
He writes poetry that is far beyond his age.
Break the trust that goes into a classroom.
Hey, Jimmy. Hi.
Hi.
Talent is so fragile and so rare, and our culture does everything to crush it. How often are we missing these moments? You're going to recite your poems, and we're going to publish a book that has your name on it.
And that kind of plot is almost what happens here in A Poet, because this annoying poet, he does eventually deign to become a high school teacher because he's got nothing else. It's his only option, because his teenage and very estranged daughter is about to go to college and he needs to raise funds because, you know, I'm the man, I need to provide for my daughter, I need to pay for my daughter's university education. So he needs a job, and this is the only thing that's going. So he deigns to become a high school teacher, and one of the girls in his class, a 15-year-old girl in his class, is described as a poet, and he reads some of her notebooks, and actually she's good. She's really good. And, you know, this is a talent that needs to be nurtured, very much in the same way that Maggie Gyllenhaal did in The Kindergarten Teacher. And through interacting with this 15-year-old girl and through trying to mentor her, for the first time, probably in his life, this guy decides, okay, yes, let's be pragmatic. I mean, yes, it's all well and good saying that I'm an artist, I'm a poet, but you also need money. So yes, let's be a teacher, let's nurture the next generation, let's try something different, let's actually learn to live in the real world, in the pragmatic world. He also stops drinking, which certainly doesn't hurt. And basically, through his interactions with this girl, he starts the long and painful journey towards pragmatism, towards actually living a proper life and not being, you know, the starving artist. I mean, that's kind of cute when you're in your 20s. When you're in your 40s, 50s, it's just not cute anymore. And he's long past the point where it's cute. So you really need to knuckle down and actually do something. But of course, he takes it a little bit too far, and pushing and pushing and pushing this 15-year-old girl to be this great poet. Maybe she's not actually into it. I mean, she just likes writing stuff down in her notebook and, you know, doing a poet, being a proper exponent of this type of poetry. It's not really what she's into, and being pushed into it. I mean, because, hey, you might get some money, and she is dirt poor, and she's also a darker skinned than the average Colombian, or the majority of Colombians. So this poor black girl who's got a 22-year-old sister, a 17-year-old sister, and between them they've got 3 kids. Yeah, and the kind of the poverty, the race, the gender, everything is working against this girl, which is brought out to me, and the hypocrisy of the artistic world, because she is encouraged to enter this poetry competition because there might be some money in it. And the guy who's running the competition says, oh yes, all the poetry you've been doing, all the nice poetry you've got. I mean, there's a really good poem about a tree. I mean, and it's nice, sweet poetry. I mean, the kind of things that a reasonably positive 15-year-old girl would think about. But yeah, the guy who's running the competition says to her specifically, hey, why don't you write poems about how hard it is being poor and black and a woman? Because that's what the people who are listening to this poetry, and the people who are funding this competition, you know, the Dutch embassy are funding this competition, they want to hear about the poverty. They want to hear, you know, specific ideas of what it is like to be poor, black and female in this kind of environment. And to give him credit, the protagonist of the film calls bullshit on this immediately. I mean, he despite having pushed her towards this competition in the first place, once he realizes how this girl is being manipulated, he's not on board anymore. He says, no, let her write what she wants to write about. I mean, she's a good poet because she's writing about these calm, sweet, positive things. So he's not on board with this. And then stuff goes down and it all starts falling apart. I mean, really badly. I mean, it looks absolutely terrible. I mean, he did nothing, well, he did things wrong, but he didn't do things that were wrong enough for the shit show that the last couple of chapters of this. I mean, there's 5 chapters in this film, and the last couple, it's like everything that can go wrong does go wrong. And some of it is his fault, but really not all of it. I mean, he was just really, really unlucky, and it looks so much worse than it actually was. But it looks bad. And yeah, this guy who's trying to actually live a responsible life, probably for the first time, he's obsessed with this famous Colombian poet, Asuncion Silva, I think it was his name, who's apparently on Colombian money. But he is one of those artists who killed himself at 30 and then became famous after his death. And he's obsessed with this. I mean, I should have killed myself at 30. I mean, my poems would have started selling then. And you know, throughout the course of the film, he threatens to, oh, no, I'll just kill myself then. He doesn't really mean it, but he's got that kind of attitude, and he's obsessed with this idea of the grand, romantic, artistic gesture. And maybe that just doesn't fly in 2025. But yeah, it's a fascinating film. It's a fascinating character study about this man, this very, very self-important, very, very annoying man, actually maybe learning some lessons and learning that pragmatism is actually a good idea. There's some of that. I mean, the conflict between living an artistic life and living a pragmatic life. The conflict between what is expected of you, the perception of what you're doing and what you actually want to do. I mean, there's lots and lots of things going on here. So yeah, I actually think this was a very, very good film. I mean, it's not the awkward film that I expected it to be, and I actually rather like it. So yeah, for me, on my rating scale, I think a poet is a yay. And it kind of surprises me to say that, because like I said, I was not looking forward to this one, but I actually think it's really good. So yeah, the Colombian film A Poet is definitely one to look out for. Right, so it is now Sunday morning and I'm in my absolutely tiny hotel room with no windows, but you get what you pay for. And because there are no windows, or one of the reasons is it's really, really hot in here, and you can possibly tell that I'm sweating. So yeah, so I think I'm just gonna go to bed now, because I need to check out of here at 10 o'clock in the morning, which is annoying, which is just well because I actually need to take a short, well, I mean, it's more convenient for me to take a short bus trip to my venue for tomorrow, which is a little bit further out from the centre of Leeds. I mean, I could have walked it, but there's a direct bus from the head road just by the Light Cinema. So yes, I think I'll probably record when I get to the Hyde Park Picture House, a little bit further out from the centre of Leeds. So yes, I will probably see you tomorrow morning. So it's a chilly Sunday morning. It's actually Remembrance Sunday. since we're in early November, and I had to walk past the preparations at the War Memorial outside the library in the centre of Leeds today. I actually got on a bus this morning because I'm in the Hyde Park area of Leeds, because the two films I have today, the final two films on my trip, are at the Hyde Park Picture House, a little community independent cinema, not unfortunately part of the Picture House chain, which I assumed it was when I booked the ticket, so my membership card means nothing here. But anyway, yes, got on a bus past two universities and towards Headingley, where the middle classes moved during the Industrial Revolution and where they play rugby and cricket now. And actually there's another university up in Headingley as well. But this is Hyde Park, and yeah, I could have walked it, but it was a direct bus from the Head Row in Leeds where the light is, so here I am. And yes, I've got a very strange double bill today, and I'm probably not going to have time to record in between them, so I'm going to have two very diverse reviews for you the next time I record. First, we've got the silent animation by the musician Kid Koala SPACE CADET, and then a film I've been very eager to see, The Voice of Hind Rajab, the film that Tunisia have submitted to the Oscars by the outstanding director Koutia Ben Hania. That's going to be traumatic probably, so having that immediately following a cute family-friendly or kid-friendly animated film is going to be a bit of tonal whiplash, I think. But yes, I will see you later after I've seen these final two films. So, you currently find me on Woodhouse Moor, which is a large piece of green and pleasant land, a short walk from the Hyde Park Picture House. It's reasonably quiet. I mean, there's a lot of pedestrians. I've just had to delay recording because of an airplane. There's a skate park over there and a children's playground over there, and a main road just up there, so who knows what kind of sound quality we're going to get here, but I needed something green and leafy because yeah, I've just seen two films at the Hyde Park Picture House, and I'm going to have to do it out of order. I'm going to have to start with the film I've just seen, which was The Voice of Hind Rajab. And that's it, basically exactly what I was expecting it to be. I mean, it's harrowing, it's devastating. There were multiple people at the end of the screening who were openly crying. It's a powerful piece of work, and I mean, brilliantly done. I mean, Koutia Ben Hania, I think is a brilliant director. I mean, I loved her Oscar nominated film, The Man Who Sold His Skin. I think it was nominated. And her documentary Four Daughters, which I think got nominated for Best Documentary and got submitted to International. But either way, I mean, The Man Who Sold His Skin and Four Daughters, I think, are both excellent. And one of the things I loved about Four Daughters is its blending of the documentary and the fictional. Because what Koutia Ben Hania did is went to the family of a couple of Tunisian girls who went away to be ISIS brides. And in order to tell their story and in order for the family to work through their issues, Koutia Ben Hania hired a couple of actresses to play out incidents from this family's life, kind of like art therapy almost. And through this, I mean, showing how this happened, why this happened in the family dynamics. I mean, I think Four Daughters is an excellent film. And The Voice of Hind Rajab mixes the documentary and the narrative in a similar way. Well, it not in a similar way, but it does the same thing. It mixes the documentary and the narrative, the fictional and the non-fictional, because the voice on the end of the telephone is the real voice of this little 6-year-old girl, Hind Rajab Hamada. And yes, there's another plane going on. Should I? No, let's carry on. And there are actors playing the people who work at the Red Crescent, but even then, every now and again, the real voices of the real people who worked for the Red Crescent are in the audio as well. So it's a mixture of the performance and the real. I mean, in certain places they even overlap a little bit. I mean, we're hearing the audio recording of the real person, and then the act will come in and start saying exactly the same line in exactly the same way. So I mean, it blends very nicely, I think, the fictional and the non-fictional. And I mean, it's powerful. I mean, hearing this 6-year-old girl who is on the phone for hours, surrounded by the bodies of her family, her aunt and uncle and her 4 cousins, were in an ordinary car, and the Israeli army decided that was a legitimate target to be attacked by a fucking tank. Really? You're firing tank shells at an ordinary car, which just happens to be in Gaza, in northern Gaza. And the frustration of this, I mean, the anger of this. I mean, because this is the Red Crescent, yes, but it's the Red Crescent in Ramallah, in the West Bank. I mean, thousands of miles away, hundreds of miles away from Gaza, where this phone is actually coming from. I mean, the first contact they get is from the girl's uncle, who's in Germany, and he's phoned up the Red Crescent saying, hang on, can you find my niece and my family? And I mean, so they're in Ramallah, they're hundreds of miles away from actually physically being there. And this is all that they can do. And in order to get an ambulance to this little girl, they have to go through so many bureaucratic hurdles. The Red Crescent has to get in touch with the Red Cross, and the Red Cross gets in touch with Israeli intelligence, and Israeli intelligence gets in touch with the army on the ground in order to get a safe route, so for an ambulance to get through. And if they're not on the accepted route, then a Red Crescent ambulance will be deemed a legitimate target, and the Israelis are just going to bomb it if they're not precisely on this route which they've agreed on. And it takes hours. It takes hours, even in the best of circumstances. And these are not the best of circumstances. It takes hours for this route to be approved. So they have to go through all these hurdles, these bureaucratic hurdles, in order to try and get this girl rescued. And periodically, throughout the several hours this girl's on the phone, she stops responding. So is it worth it anyway? Is it worth risking our ambulance drivers for a girl who might be dead when we get there? I mean, that's a legitimate question. And I mean, the anger and the frustration of the man who takes the original call, and his boss, who's the one who's having to try and coordinate all these different agencies, simply to get the 8-minute drive from where the ambulance is to where it needs to get. It's 8 minutes, and it takes hours to even start to get this sorted out. And the guy whose job it is to coordinate this, he's doing his best, but it's a bureaucratic minefield. Almost literally, it's a minefield. And the frustration and the anger starts coming out, and he bears the brunt of it, because the people who are actually on the phone with the girl are saying, for fuck's sake, send an ambulance, it's 8 minutes. And the boss quite rightly says, if we send an ambulance now, they're just going to get bombed, and I've lost too many ambulance drivers already, I'm not going to lose any more. You can see his point, but equally, there's a 6-year-old girl on the end of this phone, and she's dying. So it's just an interminable situation, and a film of urgency, a film that was done very quickly. I mean, there was actually a little a video introduction from Kautia Ben-Hania saying, thank you for coming to the film. I mean, I hope you like it. I mean, I can't be there because I'm currently working on the film I dropped in order to make this film, The Voice of Hind Rajab, and now I'm back doing what I was originally doing. I suspect that's going to be played at a lot of film festivals. Actually, I think this film is playing at the Bristol Palestine Festival next month. I wonder if the same video will play there. But yeah, I mean, it was done very quickly. It was done with urgency. It was done very, very handheld. Lots of close-ups. It got that cinema verite, that documentary feel to it, as well as having documentary aspects to it. I mean, it works. I mean, it's devastating, it's harrowing, it's urgent, it's important, it's all of those things. And I really, really hope, at the very least, this gets on the 15 film long list for International Feature Oscar. I think the tide has definitively turned, and from all the protests about Palestinian films getting into the Oscars over the last couple of years, I think now it's going to be an issue if Israel gets in. I believe there's some countries who said they'd boycott if Israel gets on the shortlist of the International Feature Oscar race, despite the fact that the Israeli submission is actually about a Palestinian boy. It's called The Sea, and I think it's a Palestinian boy who wants to go to the sea, but he lives in the West Bank, so he goes on his own through Israel, which could be quite dangerous. But yeah, I mean, there's people who've talked about boycotting if Israel gets nominated. It's a minefield, it really is. But yeah, I mean, this is a powerful piece of work, and it kind of feels wrong, it kind of feels weird putting it in these terms, but on my rating scale of yay, nay or mad, this is a yay. I mean, it's a brilliant, harrowing, devastating piece of work. And yeah, Kautia Ben-Hania is one of this generation's finest directors. I really think she is. So yeah, for want of a better term, it's a yay for The Voice of Hind Rajab. And in a complete tonal shift, the first film I saw this morning at the Hyde Park Picture House was the animated film Space Cadet, directed by Kid Koala and based on his own graphic novel. I mean, I thought that Kid Koala was basically just a musician. I mean, he's a turntablist and whatever. But he's been doing art and graphic novels and stuff for quite some time, and including the graphic novel for this, which I believe was 2011 or something like that. So this is a long existing property that has now been turned into a feature film. which is just as well, because I saw striking parallels between this film Space Cadet and a Spanish animation, also silent, from 2 years ago I think it was, called Robot Dreams. Now Robot Dreams actually rather surprisingly got a nomination for animated feature at the Oscars. Wasn't my favourite that year. I would have left it off the list, I think, but it got nominated. And there's lots of similarities in the plot and the structure between Robot Dreams and Space Cadet. Both of them are about deep friendship between a mammal and a robot. Here it's a human girl, and in Robot Dreams it was a dog. But in both cases they form a deep bond, a deep friendship with a robot. Then they get separated, and it's about the loneliness and the isolation, and eventually learning to move on, to accept the changes which have happened in the relationship. And yeah, I don't know how deliberate it was. I mean, basically I think Robot Dreams would have had to rip off this, because like I said, the graphic novel, I think it was 2011, it was certainly before Robot Dreams. So yeah, the similarities are striking, and yeah, I think but it's still really well done. I mean, there's a poignancy to this, there's a meaningful approach to the subject matter. It's dealing with this isolation and the changes in the relationship in a really profound way, what I found was a profound way. And there's also in this film Space Cadet, there's a little bit of empty nest syndrome here as well, because this robot essentially raised this girl who becomes a space cadet, following her mother into the Space Corps or whatever, following her mother into the stars, and her mother disappeared on mission in space. So the mother's gone, so the daughter is essentially raised by this guardian bot. So when the girl grows up and graduates from Space Academy and goes off into space for 6 months, what's the robot left to do? And that's kind of the question. And it finds some really interesting things to say about that. I mean, the fact that this is a robot, it's not a living thing, and the pursuits and the way it does its pursuits are not the way that a living thing would do them. Randomly, this robot picks up a stray cat who's in the film right from the beginning. I mean, one of the early scenes is the cat jumping over the garden fence, prowling about, looking very superior, and then slipping and face planting on the ground, and then jumping up, looking around. Did anybody see that? No, I'm still cool. I mean, like cats do, or certainly my cat does that on occasion. Although she's pretty nimble-footed. I haven't seen her face plant for quite some time, but she definitely did that when she was a kitten, so like face plants and then pretend it didn't happen. So yeah, the cat is definitely part of this as well. And yeah, it's very approachable, fun for all the family. I mean, there was a couple of kids in this audience who would not shut up, but you have to expect that in a family-friendly animation a lot of the time. But yeah, I mean, it's got fun things for kids. I mean, when the space cadet does go out into space, she starts finding all these different plants on different planets, and they've all got different things, and then she gets trapped by things which kind of look like the Langoliers from the Stephen King thing. These sort of like floating green balls, but Well, it's not exactly what the Langoliers look like, but that was what came to mind, was the Langoliers. Actually, they kind of look like space sperm as well, but she has to deal with those and comes up with ingenious ways of doing that. So, yeah, it's fun, but it's also got a very melancholy twist to it. I mean, this is about separation and isolation, and the relationship between these two characters drastically changing, and it's kind of a bittersweet film and a kind of a bittersweet ending if you're on the wavelength, or if you're a kid, you could just watch the the floating green space balls and have fun with that. But I mean, it's quite a meditative film, and yeah, I quite liked it. I think I actually prefer it to Robot Dreams. Oh, it's probably not going to get as high profile release and have as many people watch it as Robot Dreams did. And I mean, I don't know if it's even going to be eligible for the animated feature Oscar list, but it might be, and it fit into my schedule. I mean, it was in the same screen directly before I saw The Voice of Hind Rajab, so even with the tonal whiplash, it was worth slotting into my schedule. So yeah, it's good, family friendly, but does have some profundity to it, does have a little bittersweet tinge to it. And yeah, I quite liked Space Cadet by Kid Koala, and for me it's a rock solid, pretty high meh. So that brings me to the end of the screenings I've had at the Leeds International Film Festival 2025. Sat here in a common in Leeds on Remembrance Sunday. I might try and record something later before I get on the coach, because I've got several hours to kill before the coach now. So that might happen. If not, I'll record something when I get home. But either way, that is almost it for this video. So I will wrap up in a minute. Okay, so one final bit of Leeds. It's not actually that impressive a view, especially in the dark, but that is the Royal Armouries Museum. It's a purpose-built museum built on a brownfield site on Leeds Dock. It was opened in 1996 to hold the United Kingdom's store of weapons and various other kinds of armaments. They've just well, judging by the posters we'll be seeing around Leeds, they've just finished a major exhibition about gladiator weapons. So, yeah. When I think of attractions in Leeds, this is the first thing I think of, because I've seen so many history documentaries which have involved the Royal Armouries Museum, but it's not actually that impressive a building, but it's in Leeds and I've still got a little bit of time to kill, so I wandered down here before heading to the bus station. So yes, here ends my trip to Leeds at the end of 3 days on Remembrance Sunday, and yeah, that was a good times. Managed to tick off a lot of stuff from the International Feature Oscar race and stuff which might show up on the animated feature as well. Definitely my film of the festival was The Voice of Hind Rajab. That's an extraordinary piece of work. And surprisingly, my honourable mentions go to A Poet and Dog of God, neither of which I was anticipating very much, because I mean, what I'd heard about them beforehand didn't impress me, but I was actually impressed once I watched them. So Yeah, I mean, The Voice of Hind Rajab is definitely going to be, you know, a major contender in my personal considerations for international feature. Might even sneak into Best Picture. I can see it happening. It's a long shot, but I can certainly see it happening. I mean, that's just... It's a film you need to see. I mean, if you think you can stomach it, which I fully appreciate, not everybody's going to be able to cope with this, but if you think you can cope with hearing the real voice of a 6-year-old who you know by the end of the film is going to die, if you can manage that, then yes, this is 100% a film that needs to be seen. But I think that's it from this video for the Leeds International Film Festival 2025. If you've watched this far into the video, maybe I deserve a like. You can also leave a comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do anything which helps the algorithm promote this tiny little channel. But until next time, which will be the Manchester Animation Festival, which I'm going to be going to on Wednesday. Only 3 films there, and I'm doing it in one day. That's going to be a very long day. But yes, until my Manchester Animation Festival roundup or video, that is where I leave you. So all that remains for me to say is this has been a presentation of the Yay, Nay or Meh channel, and I will see you next time where I shine a light on TV and cinema, both obvious and obscure.